Hey everyone, I wanted to go over some new and exciting news that we got for Pokemon Unite, both on the Nintendo Switch and on mobile devices. And that's the fact that we got a brand new set of information regarding a developer interview with producer Masaki Hoshino, where he basically did an interview with Famitsu, providing a couple of interesting details regarding the game's development and production, and more interestingly enough, their decision-making process as to why games are specifically tailored for a 10-minute timer and what decisions they took to be able to get there. Remember that most MOBAs are pretty much points based. They're pretty much decided on, like, you pretty much just have to finish out the map as they're designed, but this one is a little bit more timer based. So they're definitely trying to throw in a little bit of a curveball as to how ultimately a team can be able to achieve winning the match. So quick shout out to Nintendo Everything for actually providing a couple of translations for this, but I will be leaving a link in the description below for the Famitsu article. So the very first question actually reads, as we played the game, we found that the 10-minute matches to be perfect length. Can you tell us how you settled on that time limit? The response is, it was to allow players to pick up and play more casually. Other games in the genre rely on win conditions as opposed to time limits, but with a win condition means that nobody can predict when a match will actually end. A time limit means that the game will always finish after 10 minutes. This allows players to sneak in a casual match whenever they can. In saying that, judging from our playtesting, many players seem to be playing for hours at a time though. So it does seem to be interesting that there was a very clear development decision to have a timer pretty much be the deciding factor for the matches as to how long you're actually going to play. Remember that on like League of Legends, things can go on for minutes, like 40 minutes to an hour, hour and a half. Matches can go on forever, and at the end of the day, I don't think that's very appealing for casual players, which seems to be obviously the audience this game is going for. The next question is, it was interesting to see a fair play system being used. Is it possible to tell us how this can be done? And the response is, what that does is decrease the player's total points after doing things like disconnecting or abandoning mid-match. Players who fall under a certain threshold will not be able to join matches. It was less about punishing players for doing the wrong, but informing and incentivizing new players to do things to keep fun for everyone. So I don't necessarily think I agree with this, and this is something that I've talked about in the past. In theory, they might be right. This might be just a pretty good way for be able to tell new players to basically not just be trolls or just leave a match and disconnect because you're losing. But at the end of the day, I don't think the actual punishments are severe enough, and people, especially when you're just doing like the random matching and you're not doing ranked, you're going to see a lot of people disconnect. Definitely, that was one of the worst experiences that I had playing with just randos online whenever I started playing the game originally. It was just the fact that people would just go AFK and you're pretty much just 4v5. Now, does that actually mean you're going to lose the match? Most of the time, yes, but not always. So it was one of those things that you can definitely carry through and be able to make up for that one player who definitely went AFK, but it definitely puts you at a disadvantage, at the very least points based, especially when the CPU is not necessarily all that smart. That would actually be something that they should definitely implement. The CPU in the game is atrocious. It's not very smart. It doesn't know what to do. Even when you tell it to shadow you, it's just kind of pointless, and it just becomes fodder for other teams to be able to farm it. So you definitely don't want to be reliant on CPU people because someone left your team. Now, if the punishment was severe enough where like you actually can't play for a couple hours online, I think people would definitely stop going AFK after a while. They would just simply know not to. But at the same time, you also have to remember that a lot of people are just playing on Wi-Fi. Most people, in fact, are probably playing through Wi-Fi. So there is that off chance that you just have terrible internet to begin with, and you're just simply being disconnected because your McDonald's internet is just terrible. So, you know, there is that to consider as well. The third question reads, was there anything that you paid special attention to? And the response is, music was a big focus for the game. All music is composed by Mr. Shota Kageyama. Thanks to his compositions, I think we were able to portray Pokemon Battle Chivalry City in a particular iconic way, so please give it a listen. Now, my only real takeaway regarding this one, because I don't think I've necessarily paid too much attention to the music, if anything, I think that's one of the things that I turned down pretty much all the way down pretty early on, is the fact that there is a Halloween theme in the game right now, but there's no actual Halloween event taking place. So if you actually log into the game right now, if you haven't necessarily logged in for a while, especially after the big update that we got, I believe last month, you definitely should, because the game is seeing a lot of definitely beneficial changes and improvements for sure. But more interestingly enough, there is a Halloween theme playing, but there's no Halloween themed clothing or layered armor or anything. It's just the same thing. One of the things that MOBAs thrive for is the fact that they do seasonal events, kind of like Overwatch was a couple of years back. Very big on that. Obviously, most games do that nowadays, but they were a driving factor for that. And to see that there is a Halloween theme, but not actual like Halloween Pokemon or like Ghost or anything, like the normal arena that you're fighting in still looks the same. Nothing's changed. Those same Pokemon up here, nothing's different, no different color themes, no alternative versions of that arena, nothing. So for as much money as this game seems to be making, they seem to be resting on their laurels for a while and pretty much just waiting for things to eventually slow down and die out so they could actually infuse some actual energy and effort into the game. So that's how you know a game is actually doing well, when they're not necessarily doing all that much to it. So that's pretty clear, and I think it kind of sucks. The last question they list here says, Shrift City is a stage in quick battle, so I'll have to give it another listen when the full game releases. And the response is, which is a follow-up to the previous question. We also asked Hitoshi Ariga to draw character designs such as Professor Forest. We also had him draw young Professor Forest and actually had a whole backstory written as how she discovered the Eos energy. Although we couldn't incorporate it in this game, hopefully there'll be an opportunity to unveil it to the world. So presumably this is talking about the energy tanks that you're supposed to collect to be able to do the gacha stuff, which I mean, at the end of the day, they needed to excuse a gacha mechanic because it is a mobile game, so it needs to have that one way or another, I presume. I mean, that is the way they monetize it mostly. You buying crystals, not necessarily buying crystals for just for the gacha, but just buying outfits and stuff. So I guess they needed to come up with a way to rationalize that in one way or another, kind of like the new Pokemon game rationalized their little like energy stuff that they did in that new zone that they did. So that was kind of weird. I didn't necessarily care for it, but I guess Pokemon people will definitely know more than that. I'm not a big Pokemon guy, but I do like this game a lot, and realistically I wish I was still playing it more actively. I mean, I still do dailies and stuff, but at the end of the day I feel like I've dropped off like just my interest on actually wanting to do a lot of the things. I don't think the second season's rewards are any good. I mean, rewards in general for the season pack are not good at all. And I think there's just the new additions of Pokemon have kind of been mediocre. Sylveon was cool, but then she got nerfed, so that was kind of that. It kind of went away after a while. So I'm wondering what they're actually going to add to make this game more fun heading into the holiday season, which again, themed events should be the driving factor to keep people interested, and it doesn't necessarily seem like they're doing much of that as of right now. But hopefully you guys found this developer interview questionnaire and stuff like that a little bit interesting. I know I definitely had fun trying to cover it and figure out. I always want to know what the developers are thinking whenever they come up with things. It's one of the biggest things that draws me into video games, so I definitely like to know a little bit more insight as to how they come up with the decisions that they do. But if you're brand new to my channel, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.